The world we live in feels safe until the moment you wake up and can't move. These are stories of sleep paralysis. Subscribe and hit the like button. In the evening, I just wanted some peace and quiet. It had been a stifling day. The air in the office was heavy, and my head was buzzing from staring at the screen. When I got home, I didn't even bother to change. I just sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the noise of the city slowly fading away outside the window. The silence in the apartment felt strangely heavy. Usually it's pleasant, but this time it was somehow too deafening, as if the air had become denser. I walked around the room, pulled back the curtains, checked the doors. Everything was in place. But when I walked past the wardrobe, I heard a slight tinkling sound, as if a hanger had fallen inside. I stopped. I listened. Silence. I even smiled for a moment. Urban paranoia, I thought. I turned off the light, leaving the lamp by the bed on. The room became warm and cozy. The blanket rustled, the clock ticked quietly. And in this steady silence, sleep finally came. I woke up to a sound, not a loud one. A click, as if someone had carefully opened the closet door. My gaze automatically went there. Nothing. The door was closed. But I heard something else. Breathing. Very close, but not in the room. Inside. Long, deep, steady. Like a sleeping person. I froze. My body wouldn't obey me. Sleep paralysis. I already knew this feeling. My consciousness was awake, but my body was still asleep. But this time, it was different. The breathing didn't go away. It came from there, from the closet, clear and rhythmic, and then a whisper. Quiet, low, open up. I'm suffocating. A chill ran through my chest. I wanted to answer, but my jaws wouldn't open. The whisper repeated, warmer, closer. You heard me. Open up. My head was buzzing. The air became heavy, every breath hurt. And then another voice. Different. A chill ran through my chest. I wanted to answer, but my jaws wouldn't open. The whisper repeated itself. Warmer, closer. You heard me. Open up. My head began to buzz. The air became heavy, each breath painful. And then another voice. Different, quieter, dry, feminine. Don't listen to him. He already knows your name. I didn't know who I feared more, the one asking or the one warning me. The whisper in the closet became impatient. Open up, or I'll come out myself. The door creaked softly. A millimeter? Two? The air inside seemed to slip out. Cold, smelling of dust and iron. I heard something touch the wall from the inside. Fingers? Knock, knock. 3 times. Slowly. You don't have to be afraid, said the voice. I just want to sit down. And then, a second voice, from the same place, but from below. If he sits down, you won't get up. The door creaked louder. I heard something coming out. The rustling of fabric, the scratching of wood, hoarse breathing, and the voice now with a soft mockery. You let me in yourself when you were silent. It came closer. I couldn't see it, but I could feel the air compressing, how hard it was to breathe. Then a hand. Cold, dry, trembling. It lay on my leg. I couldn't even blink. A whisper in my ear, very close. How quietly you breathe. Get used to it. Tomorrow I will breathe for you. Something clicked in my chest. I inhaled sharply, painfully. The room is empty. The closet is closed. The silence has returned. But since then, when I go to bed, it seems to me that the hangers are moving on their own, and someone breathing in the darkness is laughing very quietly so as not to wake me up. Last night, I had a paralytic sleep. The day was normal, even calm. I worked at home without rushing, without fuss. I turned on the music, made tea, looked through the window at the rain. It fell evenly, without lightning or thunder, as if on schedule. Everything seemed normal, but somehow a little different. The things in the room were in their places, but I caught myself feeling that someone had moved them. It was as if the chair was at a different angle. The cup was not where I had left it. When I tried to remember how it was right, I couldn't. In the evening, I turned off all the lights, leaving only the table lamp on. It flickered occasionally, like a heart beating slower than it should. The window reflected its light, and in that reflection I saw myself, or someone who looked like me. The face was mine, but the gaze was not quite mine. I blinked, and it blinked with a delay. I laughed and said aloud, "I need to sleep." I lay down and covered myself with a blanket. It smelled of laundry detergent, but underneath that smell was another, barely noticeable, metallic, like after a thunderstorm or blood. I thought I was imagining things. I closed my eyes, my breathing deepened, my body warmed up. Somewhere between the states of asleep and still awake, I felt something change. The light outside the window went out completely. The air seemed to stop moving, and the blanket became heavier. At first, it was barely noticeable. Then, it became noticeable, as if someone had put their hands on it. Two hands, cold hands. I couldn't move. My breathing was ragged, my ears filled with ringing. The blanket was moving. Something was crawling under it, touching my feet, my knees, slowly moving upward. I felt fingers, long, thin, slippery. They seemed to be searching for a way to my heart. "Sleep," came a quiet voice right next to my ear. The voice wasn't outside, it was inside. "Don't open your eyes until it's quiet." The fingers touched my stomach, then my chest. I could hear someone breathing nearby. Not fast, not deep, calmly. And suddenly, the blanket seemed to come alive. Under it, movement, small jolts, stirring. It felt like someone else was there, not alone. "We love it when you sleep," whispered a voice, "because then you're closer." I jerked awake, took a sharp breath. The room was quiet. The blanket was in place. The window was closed. The lamp was off. I was breathing heavily. My heart was pounding. My head was empty. Except on the floor next to the bed lay a neatly folded pillow that I hadn't touched. And it was warm, as if someone had just been sitting on it, looking at me, and then simply got up. Last night I had a paralytic sleep. The day was exhausting to the point of nausea. I was on my feet all day without food, without breaks. In the evening, even tea seemed bitter. I fell onto the bed just to lie down for a bit, and it seems I didn't fall asleep right away. I fell somewhere else. When I woke up, the room looked the same, but something was wrong. The air became thick, as if there was no oxygen in the room. Not a sound could be heard. Complete dead silence. And suddenly, a quiet knock. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the wind doesn't breathe. The knock repeated, quietly, slowly, from the closet. I lay there unable to move. My eyes were the only thing I could move. I looked in that direction. The closet door was half open, and through the crack, darkness, deep, abnormal, like a hole in something alive. The knock again. Now it seemed to be coming from inside. Then, scratching, as if someone was slowly running their fingernails across the wood, scratching from the inside. Scratch, pause, scratch, scratch. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't. My throat was constricted, as if in a noose, and then a breath sounded from inside the closet. Long, deep, wheezing, as if old lungs were sucking in dust. Finally, you're not moving, whispered a voice from inside. Everything inside me froze. The voice was close, too close. I saw how you looked at me every time you turned off the light. I stand here, waiting for you to fall asleep. The cabinet doors shook. Something began to slowly open them. First a few centimeters, then more. The darkness inside stirred. It was as if something was moving, crawling upward. I could hear it touching the hangers, the sound of metal scraping against wood. You didn't think I was just a sound, did you? The whisper became louder, warmer, almost human. The door opened completely, and something began to emerge from the darkness. First the hands, long, thin, like a skeleton's, but covered with skin that glistened like wet paper. Then, a head. A face without eyes, only black holes from which steam rose. I've been here for years, under your clothes, in your scent. It crawled quietly, slowly, as if afraid to scare me. Every night I stand here. Today it's your turn to watch. And then it leaned in. Its face was almost touching mine. A hissing breath escaped from the holes where its eyes should have been. Now I will breathe with you in the same rhythm. I was completely paralyzed. And when its mouth began to open, I realized that there was no darkness inside, but movement. Countless fingers were moving, reaching out. They touched my face. I screamed, sharply, hoarsely, like a wounded animal. I woke up sitting up. Sweat was running down my back, my throat hurt. The room was quiet, normal. Only the closet door was now wide open. Evenings in my apartment were always the same. After work, I would have dinner, take a shower, and take a short walk on the balcony, looking out at the city at night. The lights in the windows across the street went out one by one, and only somewhere in the distance could I hear the rumble of a tram cutting through the darkness. I love these sounds. They created the illusion of life around me while I sat alone. The last few days I had felt a strange tension. It was as if something had changed in the air of the apartment. The clock ticked louder. The refrigerator creaked as if angrily, and the ventilation in the kitchen seemed alive. It breathed. Sometimes, when I turned off all the lights, I thought I heard whispering. Not distinct words, just breathing, wet and ragged. I explained it away as fatigue. I had hardly slept properly all week. That night I went to bed late. Rain began to beat against the window, as if someone were scratching at the glass. I turned my phone to silent, turned off the lamp, and wrapped myself in a blanket. It was 12:30 a.m. Just as my eyes were starting to close, I heard the first ring. The phone rang quietly, insistently, as if the caller didn't want to wake me up but couldn't wait. I got up and the blanket slipped to the floor. The screen read unknown number. My fingers slid across the glass, but I didn't press answer. The call lasted a long time, then stopped on its own. I sat there for another minute, staring into the darkness. The air in the room grew cooler. The ventilation hummed steadily, but now there was something different in that hum, like an echo of a voice muffled by walls. I put down the phone and lay back down. The second call, more abrupt. I picked up the receiver. Silence. No line noise, no breathing, just bottomless silence pressing on my eardrums. "Who is this?" I whispered. At first nothing, and then breathing. Uneven, rapid, closer than seemed possible. It didn't sound like a phone, more like someone standing next to me, looking me straight in the face. "Can you hear me?" something said. The voice was hoarse, cautious, as if after a long silence. I froze. "Don't hang up," it whispered. "I can see you're awake." I pressed end call. The screen went blank. And then the breathing didn't go away. It continued, but now it was nearby, right next to the bed. I pulled the blanket up to my neck, trying to convince myself that it was all fatigue. My eyes slowly closed. My thoughts became sluggish and blurred. Between sleep and wakefulness, I heard a short ringing sound. The sound of the phone. It came from far away. The phone wasn't on the nightstand, it was somewhere else in the room. I wanted to get up and realized I couldn't. My body wouldn't obey me. My legs, arms, even my fingers, dead. Only my heart was beating like a broken metronome. The ringing continued for a long time until the last beep, and then, just as silence was about to fall, someone picked up the phone. A familiar wheeze came from the receiver, the same breath. "Don't sleep," said the voice. "You called me." I wanted to scream, but the air stuck in my throat. The ventilation in the corner hissed. Then something cracked inside it. The sounds mixed together, the ringing, the whispering, the breathing, and it was all in the room, right next to me. "Say hello," whispered the voice above my ear. "Then I'll talk longer." A light flashed from the street. On the floor in the glare, I saw the phone. On the screen, the reflection of the hand whose shadow held it. Long fingers, cold skin, as if lit from within. I inhaled sharply, eyes open. Silence. The clock showed 0031. The phone was back on the nightstand. No missed calls. I picked it up. My fingers touched the back panel. It was warm, as if someone had just pressed it against their cheek. Carrying water, chopping wood, moving old iron near the barn. By evening, my body ached so much that it was even difficult to swallow. I fell onto the sofa in the old room with yellow curtains, where it smelled of earth, and quickly fell asleep. I woke up, or maybe it just seemed that way. The room was the same, only too dark. The wind had died down. The night pressed on my ears. I wanted to get up. I couldn't. My body felt like it was filled with lead. My eyes could see, but everything else was dead. And then I heard a sound. From the barn, behind the thin wall. A slow shuffling, then a creak, as if something heavy was being dragged across the ground. Then a voice. Hoarse, low, as if speaking through clay. "Don't fall asleep, I'm watching." I froze. The air became thick, like smoke. "I heard you breathing today." Deep, slow, footsteps. Heavy, muffled. They moved straight to the door of the room. Then, silence. "Do you think Grandma will save you?" The voice came closer, almost beside me. "She's been asleep for a long time, and she won't wake up, even if you scream." I heard the door handle slowly turning. The creak of metal cut through the silence. Something was standing behind the door. I could feel the floor vibrating slightly under its weight. "No one will help you. Never. You're on your own. And I'm here." The door began to open, slowly, inch by inch. The darkness behind it stirred as if it were alive. A hand reached out from the crack, black, dirty, with nails like shards of glass. It touched the floor, then the edge of the carpet, and began to reach toward me. "You dug a hole under the old tree today," whispered the voice. "I was lying under it. Did you feel the earth breathing?" That was me. The hand disappeared. Silence. And then something scratched under the bed. Slowly, rhythmically. Scratch, scratch, scratch. "It's empty under you. Want to check?" The mattress barely trembled. Someone touched it from below. Then again, closer to my back. I tried to scream. I couldn't. My eyes widened. My heart was pounding like a hammer. "Don't move. I'll come out when you stop breathing." And then the silence was broken. I screamed wildly, frantically. I sat up sharply. My breath came out like I was drowning. The room was empty. Only the clock was ticking and the rain was beating on the roof. I caught my breath and heard from the barn, scratch, scratch, scratch.